everyone. Welcome to the Safe House, brought to you by the SafeHouse Initiative. I'm Jeff Edwards, co-chair of the SafeHouse Initiative, and your host for today's podcast. This year's IBM Cost of a Data Breach report, one of the top three things that are driving the costs up so substantially for each breach is the skills shortage. So today we're going to dig into the skills shortage, one, the problem, and two, what one gentleman's doing to help solve the problem, to bridge that gap. And so we're really honored to have Mike Battistella join us today. Mike is the president and CTO of Solutions Cubed. He's also a director of the DVMS Institute. He's joined us today to kind of share with us his adventures, things that he's created and his experiences. It's going to be a fascinating chance for us to learn and how we're going to bridge that skills gap. Mike, welcome to the Safe House. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself, Mike?
Well, so, you mentioned that the two roles that I do have, and I do feel like I wear two hats. So sometimes I say, I've got two jobs, and one of them is very focused on the consulting area, providing professional services around cybersecurity, IT service management, and what today's called ITOM, IT operations management. That second hat I wear with the DVMS Institute is really giving me a lot of excitement. And one feeds the other, by the way, which is really very interesting. Yeah. DVMS Institute really being focused around training and really helping organizations, operationalize the cybersecurity controls. And we can go into much more depth, but they have really hit something of gold. Yeah. And so we're finding, as we're talking to organizations about that and they get excited, then, you're in this mode of gathering credibility. And then they say, hey, can you help us with, with this, because of the credibility you have. And then on the other side of it, when we're kind of leading Solutions Cubed, you're in there doing projects and we're helping organizations with their, preparation for audit, right? So we do a lot around the compliance and risk management, governance. And so we're helping organizations with that. And then, oh, by the way, let's train you. Let's kind of share that knowledge of what the DVMS is doing so that you can take it beyond what you're doing from a compliance standpoint and really improve that whole continual improvement approach and methodology, and working with organizations to help them do that.
So, Mike, hey, let's get started on how about we talk about frame out the problem for us. How did we get into this situation? And then we can talk about how we're going to get out of the situation from your perspective.
Let me kind of answer that with a story. So okay. I'm pretty involved with our Chamber of Commerce. There's a couple or three that I'm involved in. And so I was having a conversation with one of the liaisons, and it was the liaison between one of the universities here locally and the Chamber. And so she was introduced to me and, knew that I was in cyber. And so she asked me a question, and this is, not the first part of the conversation, but as the conversation progressed. Mm-hmm. And she asked me this question and she said, are we producing students that are job ready? I think she was hoping that I'd say, oh, absolutely, it's great. But I looked at her kind of deadpanned, and I love this woman. She's really terrific. But I said to her, no, frankly, no.
Wow.
And that changed the direction of how we did things. So, obviously she asked me a lot more questions and why I felt that way. And we continued the conversation, but she immediately, within a couple or 3 weeks, she had me on a call with the deans of the university and the professors, and, really to have a brain dump on why I felt that way.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're producing students that they're touching all sorts of technology, but we're not giving them the business reasons why they're doing what they're doing. Mm. We're teaching them about all sorts of tools and capabilities, but yet we're not giving them the hands-on, real practical experience. And this isn't, across the board, every university. And, as we have interns from different universities, it's all different levels. But one of the key areas really is focused around compliance. So, one of the first questions I ask the interns when they start with us is, tell me what you know about the NIST cybersecurity framework. Some of them have never heard of it before. Some of them would say things like, well, we did touch on that at one point. Well, tell me what you know about it. Well, I know that I'm not really sure. They kind of do that. Or another one I get is, well, I know there's identify, there's protect, there's detect, and then recover, respond, recover, something like that, but there's no value in knowing that there's, 5 tiers, now 6. And so let me just kind of pause there for a second.
Yeah.
So think about what we're seeing in industry right now. The numbers I've heard have been anywhere from 320,000 to say 380,000 open cybersecurity positions right now.
Yeah.
In the US. Okay, so if that's said, why are we also laying off hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of IT people and cybersecurity people?
Yeah.
That makes no sense, right?
No, it makes no sense at all. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Yep.
When I look at, where we're at, we're really focused on the sexy side of cybersecurity.
Okay.
We're focused on penetration testing, red hat teams, ethical hacking, threat hunting. Those are all really important parts.
Yeah.
But when you look at the number of areas in cybersecurity, there are a lot of areas in cybersecurity, and we're focused on a small handful. So we have a glut in one area and we have a shortage in the other. And so, really, when you look at the jobs that are available, and I'm not a market researcher or expert, I'm going off my gut feel, and the experience I have talking to people, but there are not a lot of people going into governance, risk management, compliance, training. Those are areas, and remember, those are the broad areas, right? There's a number of sub areas within that.
Right.
We're not teaching it, and a lot of folks aren't going into it. And so as I'm, talking to students and whatnot, I'm getting the sense they start with us. They start having conversation, and they want to be the ethical hacker. They want to do the penetration test. They want to do all this cool stuff. And then we expose them to some of the other areas. And, not all the time, but the majority of time, they're like, wow, I had no idea this existed. Wow, this is incredible. I think it's twofold. One is we're not providing, the universities, for the most part, are not providing students that have the capability at that level. You also have multiple levels of interest and capability at that level as well. So, for instance, I use my son-in-law, and if he ever hears this, I might be in trouble, but he's a geek. He's just a geek, and he's a phenomenal geek. I mean, he is so good at what he does. So he's all cyber, everything cyber, and he is incredible at it.
Yeah.
But there are areas that he has no interest in, and yet the areas where he's really strong, that's not where the open jobs are. Then you have kind of that middle tier where you have to have that balance between, I know technical and I know business. I can speak business, I can speak technical. You got to kind of have that area covered. And then there's that whole area of the business side of cybersecurity. And we're not producing much there at all.
I was going to ask you, it's a huge area, I would think.
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, that's what organizations are looking for. So what are we hearing? Students are graduating. With all of these jobs out there, students are graduating and they're saying, you don't have enough experience. You don't have enough experience. So they can't get the job because they don't have the experience. So much of the industry is focused on the technology. Technology. They have forgotten that people are involved. They've forgotten that process, procedure, practices are involved. And so, on the ITIL side, you're going to get a kick out of this. So on the ITIL side, there was a saying that came, I'm forgetting the individual that said it, but everybody claimed that they said it. Because, with ITIL, it's all about people, process, technology. That's the phrase. And I've been, in that ITSM area for, a couple of decades or more now. But it rolls off your tongue very easy. People, process, technology. And when you're talking to folks, they would say, a fool with a tool is still a fool.
I think that was Ben Franklin, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't come to the source of it yet. No, I actually did. I did look it up because every time I would talk to another ITSM company, they said, "Oh yeah, Bob in our group, he was the one that coined that phrase." And I had another partner, he actually gave me a white paper and said, "Oh yeah, Tom over here, he did it," and it wasn't any of those. Going back to your question, I think that's one thing, is that we are having students graduate without the real hands-on knowledge and capability. The other thing is companies aren't taking students unless they have, like I said, 2, 3, 4 years experience. Well, how are they going to get that experience if companies aren't saying, I'm willing to participate in an internship program, I'm willing to bring some of these folks on and work with them so that they can grow in a field like that. And I think where our internship program is differentiating itself is, our focus isn't necessarily on the technology. It's not necessarily on capability and functionality. It's really on, process and best practices and procedures and things like that.
So you're taking these individuals that have either graduated or in the process thereof, and they're kind of the raw material, the rough potential, and you take them and you put them into an internship program. Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like and a little bit of the history of how that all formulated and what you're doing today, kind of a thing?
Yes, I would absolutely like to do that. We have been doing taking on interns. It's got to be 7, 8 years now. And, we started with a couple here, a couple there. And really the idea was, we need an extra pair of hands. We have been around in training and Solutions Cubed is not a training company. We're practitioners. We're out there, doing the real doing. But we kind of have our roots in training. So my wife and I were both with Hewlett Packard for 10 years. We were both with HP. She was in the Ed Center the whole 10 years. I was in for 7 of my 10. So training has always been a really important part of what we do. So I always say that we are not a training company. We're practitioners, but we do a lot of training. And so that whole knowledge transfer thing, as a differentiator, I like to say that we are practitioners that train.
Yeah.
So that makes the student experience better. So we are practitioners that train. And that brings the real world experience into the classroom, making for a better student experience. But we're also trainers that are practitioners, which makes the whole knowledge transfer thing just part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And so I've always been motivated to share the knowledge that I've been fortunate enough to gain and my team and whatnot. And so as we took on a couple of interns just to kind of have that extra pair of hands, I found great joy and even excitement in watching these young minds absorb the things that we were talking about. So summer over summer, it seemed to increase. We had 2, then we had 3, then we had 4, and the next time we had 5. This time we started at 8 interns. Right now we're sitting at 7. Wow. And so with each pass of the intern phase, we have just modified the program to enhance it. And so those same things that, I mentioned with our universities, I found we were doing the same thing. Train them technology, show them tools, get involved in this, that, the other thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, the same thing that we were talking about was the issue. We're doing the same thing. So we started modifying the program and with quite a bit of sponsorship from the DVMS Institute and, our related partners, APMG International and TSO. They've really supported us, building an internship program that was something to be really proud of.
How do you feel the business aspects and things of that nature? I'm just curious.
We actually have 4 paths right now.
Okay.
So 2 interns on each path. So they always have a teammate they're working with. So we have 4 paths. DHS CISA's Cybersecurity Essentials. So these are the essentials, what CISA is saying, every business should have this.
Yeah.
If nothing else, this is essential to have. So we have 2 interns that have gone down that path. Then we have 2 interns that have gone down the NIST. We call it the NIST Cybersecurity Assessment Team. And and really we're focused on 800-171. We as a company do much more than that, but for this internship, they're focused on 800-171. And that's the NIST cybersecurity framework that DoD contractors have to adhere to.
Yep.
Then we have an additional 2 that are going down the service desk team. I'll share a little bit more about that. And then another 2 that we call the data infrastructure team. And that data infrastructure team is focused on creating a folder structure within SharePoint that is secure and role-based. So we're really teaching them, all the best design practices and things there. I think for this this conversation, maybe we'll just focus on the first 2 to start. But
okay,
the DHS CISA team we have everything laid out week by week. So, the first week it's really reviewing the essentials toolkit and understanding what it's all about. And we even have them research the UK's version, what the NCSC puts out,
Nice.
which actually is much more detailed. And really we got ours from them,
Yep.
so to speak. And so I have them go through both of them. So really get a good idea. And then the second week, we really focus on how to do an assessment. So we're literally teaching students, college students, how they would do an assessment for an organization. The overview of the project, establishing a boundary, defining the scope, making sure they understand what the deliverables are. So we're really teaching them. And then every week thereafter, for the 6 key areas, and actually we've added 2 additional ones, they do a deep dive in that area. So let's say they're talking about, awareness training. So they're going to do a deep dive in awareness training, make sure they understand all the aspects of what Essentials is saying about it. And then they have to develop the probing questions for the interview or for the assessment. So what we're really trying to get them away from is going down a checklist, which was what so many people do.
Yep.
I don't want to go down a checklist and say, do you have this? Yes, no. Do you have this? Yes, no. I want them to get into a conversation with the client, build a relationship, build that rapport, and let the client talk. So asking open-ended, probing questions, and kind of, based on what the client is saying, they're going to get ideas for other questions, but more importantly, get the answers that they needed to get a good idea where they're at. Because I've always found when I'm doing this, is if you can get the client talking, you get a whole lot more information than if you just go down a checklist.
Yeah, it's very consultative in nature.
Absolutely. Now that they've, kind of learned how to do that, in that same week, we're talking about an individual week, they have to assess us. So we get on a Zoom call and they go through this whole thing that they learned, but they're asking questions, and we've taught them how to score, from a maturity standpoint. So we're leveraging the CMMI scale. And so they have to not only get the information, they have to score it. So we're teaching them how to identify where a client is on that maturity scale and then formally document it. So every week they hit each one of those key areas with what I went through. And then as they get toward the end, we're a consulting company. I'm trying to teach them how to be consultants. So now take what you learned and create what we're calling a pre-sales package. Create the data sheet, create the pricing model, make sure we know what the project timeline would look like. What does the statement of work look like for this? And then the week after that, they have to build the assessment tools they would use, the ranking spreadsheets and, whatever they would use to do it. Yeah. And then So by this time, which actually what I just said there, the implementation package, that starts next week. By this time,
okay, yeah, it's real time then. Yeah,
they've gone through the whole thing, and then the week after, they are assessing a real client. I have a partner of mine that a small company could never pay for us to come in and do an assessment like this. But we're having the interns go in at no cost to the client. So, the benefit to the client is obvious, he's not paying. The benefit to the interns is they're doing a real live assessment based on what they learned. So what ends up happening is they're coming out with real knowledge. They've gone through 2 assessments. And so if I jump down now to the NIST team, they're taking that first week, they're doing a deep dive in the cybersecurity framework, 800-171. And then we're doing the same thing, giving them, the overview of the project and how to do this assessment. And then they're going through the 800-171 controls that are specifically tied to the CMMC level 1 assessment, CMMC being the cybersecurity maturity model certification.
Yep.
So same scenario, they go through each of the controls and the various control objectives. They're actually finishing that up next week with the final assessment. And then the following week, they will be assessing a DoD contractor, small company. And, just a little bit of background there. This small company, I know the CEO very well. And he's talking about getting out of the DoD because the whole idea of the assessment and the amount of money involved and the remediation and, all of that stuff, he said, I can't afford it. And I said, well, you know what? My interns are going to come in and we're going to do this level 1 assessment for you. So again, these 4 interns will have gone through 2 assessments. One, they'll be assessing us. in both of those areas, essentials as well as 800-171, but they'll also be helping another company that couldn't afford to do it themselves. In parallel with everything I just told you. So I hope your audience just heard that this is not an internship for the week. and I tell them all the time, this is not a checkbox internship where you show up a couple of days a week and you get your credit for the internship. This is a lot of work. They have put a lot of work in. So in parallel with everything I just told you that they're doing, they're taking formal training on the NIST cybersecurity framework, the risk management framework, what GRC is all about. And then they're going through the DVMS Foundations, the Digital Value Management System Foundations course. Yep. Every week, they have assigned modules and chapters that they have to read, and then we do a study session. And so actually next week, I have 6 of my 7 interns are testing for that certification, and they're rocking it. They're absolutely rocking it. And then we also do a vendor of the week. So every week there's one of our vendor partners. They have to do a deep dive. So they have to understand what the vendor's all about. They go to their website. If there's free training, they take it. We try to get a demo set up with the vendor so they see what the product. So you see what's kind of happening here is we're trying to have the students come out having real hands-on experience, having training, understand other vendors that are out there and available. And I think what's happening here is they're coming out with an incredible talking and working knowledge of what this thing called cybersecurity is all about.
Yeah, it's almost like a mini apprenticeship, a very shortened version of, because it's a real hands-on, it's real practical, treated just like it's real, because you take them in and they actually do a real assessment with real companies. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said apprenticeship because topic for another program, but
okay,
that's
so you've got that in the works, eh?
Oh yeah, that's where we're taking it. That's absolutely where we're taking it. So we envision this. We call it a 10+1. So 10 weeks of work, and then the final week they put their project presentations together. So they've been working on that the entire time.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we even throw in we're going to do some soft skill training next week for them, so they kind of get comfortable with the PowerPoints and presentation skills and all that. But then at the end of that week, they are presenting their projects. So we set up a Zoom call. We invite their professors and their peers, their family members, anyone they want to invite, and then we invite a number of our industry partners and our podcast partners.
and then thank you for the invite, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait for it. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, and we bring in the founders of the DVMS Institute, APMG International, our accreditation body, and so for 5 interns last year, we had 87 people on the call.
Wow.
I anticipate that we're gonna have over 100 people on that call, and so what it ends up being, Jeff, and the reason I mention it is it's an interview.
Yeah.
Right. So these interns are strutting their stuff. They're excited to show their professors what they've done. But, I've got industry partners that are looking for people that can fill these roles. And so what we're really hoping is some of those industry partners will say, can I talk to this one? Can I talk to that one? So, that was kind of a long-winded to your question, what are we doing about it? We want to take this with not only interns, but turn the internship, phase 2 apprenticeship, phase 3 W-2 work. And by the time they get through phase 3, they probably will have been through 4 assessments. They probably walk out with 6 or 7 certifications and have real life experience.
I have a question that I ask all our guests. So if you were to talk to our audience and they had one thing they could do today that you would give them advice to do to help them with the skills shortage, what would you encourage them to do?
I would have organizations get involved, and if they don't know where to start, get a hold of me. I'm happy to talk to folks and
I think that's great advice. Guidance. Well, Mike, it's been a delight, and you are a fascinating individual. So thank you for taking the time, investing your time, and contributing this beautiful content. It's going to help a lot of people, because I think reach out and host an intern or two could pay huge dividends in the future.
Thank you, Jeff. I so enjoyed being a part of this with you. I am so glad that Solutions Cubed has locked arms with the SafeHouse Initiative, and really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we appreciate you too, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
That's our podcast for today. I'm Jeff Edwards for the SafeHouse Initiative. Thanks for joining us, and remember, be safe, be resilient, and be kind to each other. For more information about the SafeHouse Initiative, please use your mobile device to scan the QR code on the screen, or send us an email at info@safehouseinitiative.org, or visit us on our website, safehouseinitiative.org. We look forward to hearing from you.